Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on golf club revenue generation, the latest in the series from Play More Golf. Today we're joined by Brad again, who's going to lead today's session. If you've got any questions, please use the chat or raise your hand, and we will address all questions at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Brad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you everybody for attending. Just a little bit about myself. So as David said, my name is Brad. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Play More Golf and been with the company for just around 17 months now. My key responsibilities are really split between supporting our current partner clubs to maximise their flexible membership, whilst also working with a team to welcome new partner clubs into the network. A little bit of my experience. So 20 plus years of experience in the golf business, spanning all sectors of the industry. So working from sort of large corporate proprietary run operations in and private member golf clubs as well. So certainly this experience has been invaluable in terms of supporting partner clubs to achieve their goals with us as well. Having worked with Play More Golf previously as a general manager actually at this time, so sat in the general manager seat at a golf club and introducing a flexible membership solution, I've certainly got a good understanding, I think, of the challenges and pitfalls when introducing a category as this into a golf club that's new. So just a little bit about us in terms of the business. So we are the first flexible golf membership that links individual golf clubs across the United Kingdom under one membership. And from the golfer's perspective, ultimately we seek to provide some more choice for the golfer, provide more value, I suppose more flexibility and more convenience as well. And then in terms of what we do for our clubs, so we support clubs with a solution to meet a number of challenges that might exist at the club at the moment. So from a club that needs help improving its tee sheet utilisation, a club that may need some support with marketing at the club to generate new leads to come in, a club that may have a hole in its revenue and needs some additional help to support it. Certainly with retaining more members, quite a sort of hot topic at the moment with many clubs coming up to membership renewal at the minute. And I suppose ultimately as well, we attract the more infrequent golfer, and we'll explain a little bit more in this webinar in terms of what is an infrequent golfer. And it really helps to bridge that gap between the pay and play golfer and the full member. We also have recently launched a new product, which is actually a solution to help manage and monetize waiting lists in golf clubs. So many golf clubs up and down the UK have actually got waiting lists at the minute and have done really well from memberships and actually are potentially looking for ways that they can monetize it and help integrate the members of the future. And we also have a solution that can help clubs to manage existing members. So be it a corporate solution, because the current sort of technology that the club has makes it quite difficult to manage utilization of a corporate membership. We sort of have a tech platform that can help support that as well. And finally, and again, very recent, is a white label solution. So if a club is looking for some support with technology to help you run your own flexible membership scheme, then we have that solution as well. So we have a number of options available and a number of solutions to meet sort of various challenges, really. So really in terms of what we're going to be covering today, so what opportunities exist to help grow revenue, to certainly complement the current subscription income. Really key point that the solution that we provide doesn't replace what you currently do, but it just complements what you currently do. Perhaps some hints and tips on things you should consider before you choose whether to progress with introducing a new category. Ultimately, how does the platform help to grow revenue? And I guess what sort of results could you expect if you introduced a category like a flexible membership in? And then opportunity for some questions and answers at the end. So really what we sort of tend to say when we're talking to prospect clubs, if you're sort of considering looking to introduce a new category of membership, we absolutely look to have a membership strategy in place that clearly demonstrates that there's a need to have it in there. And I guess some of those considerations when you're looking at putting something in could be tee sheet utilization, both over the summer and over the winter. So getting a really good flavour for where are the peaks and troughs in my start sheet? Are there times that is quiet? So ultimately, can we support by driving additional revenue at off-peak times? And certainly what we're seeing with our partner clubs, sometimes that takes the pressure off large subscription increases to the other 5 and 7 day members, because ultimately you're being able to maximize the T-sheet. Of course, when we're driving that off-peak utilization, it can help to drive the added on spend that comes when the golfers come in the afternoon, both in the shop, bar and restaurant at the club. And with a network of 12,000 members across the Play More Golf, there is some additional revenue that can be driven from other Play More Golf network people being able to use what we call their away points at your club, and the club obviously paid for that utilization of when it comes in. And there's an element that says we can provide the next generation of full 5 and 7 day members. Certainly what we're seeing at the minute, that on average, sort of 20% of flexible members not renewing with Play More Golf have actually upgraded into a club's 5 or 7 day membership. And typically when they're looking to join a club, they may be uncertain about how much use they're going to get. They may have been a junior member, an intermediate member in the past, and perhaps coming back into the game, or they may have been sort of a pay and play green fee golfer looking to sort of be attached to a home club, but not so sure how much golf they're going to play. Join a flexible scheme, because of course it's a points-based credit solution, and find themselves playing a lot more golf, been integrated into a club very well, actually feel that they want to be able to play on Wednesday mornings or Saturday mornings and play in a few more competitions, and therefore the 7 day membership or 5 day membership becomes more appealing. So, you know, that we provide a real good stepping stone into that. And on average, our partner clubs have shown to have upwards of 70 members after a 3-year partnership. And ultimately, it's about that sustainable growth each year. So it's not about achieving a sudden influx of new members. It's about a steady growth in new members coming in, so that actually clubs get a real flavour and a real welcome of these new members coming in, and get a flavour for when they're going to play as well. And ultimately, for a small annual fee, we provide the platform, a dedicated support manager, customer service team to sort of handle all member queries, and a marketing team to help drive new inquiries, which ultimately can sort of help you to start to drive that additional revenue coming in. I think now that you've sort of made that decision that there's an opportunity to introduce a flexible membership scheme at the club, we sort of would advise clubs just to look at having a membership matrix in there, which really outlines the entitlements of each category, and specifically the entitlements of this new category. Because ultimately what that can do is it can help to show current members at the club that there is a distinct difference between what the 5 day member gets and the 7 day member gets at your club, and what a flexible member gets. Ultimately, the flexible member is paying less for their membership fee, so the entitlements should mirror that. You know, one of the recurring questions we actually do get from clubs is, actually, we really like the idea of doing it, but I'm really worried about full members downgrading. And ultimately, by having that clear separation between what the 5 and 7 day member gets, that member can see, oh, I can actually see that they can't book so far in advance, and they don't get to play in the competitions that I get to play in, and they don't get perhaps the level of discount that I get on the bar. And ultimately, you can show the members that through the formation of a points matrix, you can show that actually flexible members are not going to be looking to play at the times that 5 and 7 day members play. They're looking to play in the quieter times, because that's where you make the points quite attractive to go in there. So ultimately, you can really demonstrate to members that there are distinct differences between the two. I think the other thing to really consider is actually how many members would you like to attract? As I said a moment ago, we certainly encourage clubs to have that sustainable growth coming in each year, and obviously looking to achieve 70 members over a 3-year lifespan. And ultimately, by doing that, you get to check on utilization of your tee sheet. You get to make sure that you're not filling up the tee times too quickly, and therefore your considerations can change each year. And one of the things we do with clubs every single year is really sit and say, you know, how's your utilization going? Do you feel you've got room to grow? Do you feel you're kind of where you want to be in terms of the number of members that you have? So very much an evolving subject. And ultimately, for the flexible membership entitlements, you know, what are the days and times of the week that we're looking to push? As I mentioned, the booking window being less, competition entry requirements, we always recommend that you mainly make it available for midweek, and with perhaps the odd weekend. Some partner clubs don't have any weekend competitions available and just have with midweek. And generally then, in terms of the price point for a flexible membership, we would tend to recommend you use 1/3 of the price of a 7 day member, because generally there's 1/3 of the golf going on. And ultimately, clubs have the choice in terms of how the points matrix is designed. So ultimately driving utilization to the days and the times of the week that you want. And that's a points matrix that can be changed. So you can set off on a journey and because utilization has changed, or you're looking to change the days that you push, the support team will sit with you, during the year and look to change that point matrix so that you can just obviously switch things here and there. And one key thing that really drives that is actually the yield that gets generated from flexible members. So if you're looking to kind of tweak that yield up in a few places, just a points change here and there can really make a big difference. So obviously, whilst it kind of may seem a little, I suppose, a little bit daunting when you're looking at this, certainly with our approach and a very, very systematic approach, we say that you can achieve that additional revenue and it will complement what you currently do. Won't replace it, it'll complement what you currently do, and the current members you have at your club will be taken on that journey with you. Yes, there may be an element of members that you currently have at your club that are looking to move on to this. And I suppose ultimately really understanding those player habits, we sort of tend to say to clubs, were you going to lose that member anyway in its entirety? So you lose all the revenue versus you've moved them into a slightly different category. So that member may have stopped being a 7-day member, moved to a flexible, but ultimately they're going to get less entitlements. They will be playing their golf differently than perhaps what they have done in the past. And I guess keeping them attached to a golf club when circumstances may change in a few years' time, there's the opportunity to move them back into a 7-day membership. So, we tend to sort of try and work with the clubs where we can on that. One thing I mentioned early on in terms of the support that you get. So ultimately within the Play More Golf team, you've got a team of experts in different areas. So dedicated club support team. So you'd have a dedicated club account manager to effectively help onboard the club. So they take care of everything for you in terms of designing the points matrix, sitting down with you, making sure you're happy with it, getting all the membership entitlements right, getting all the systems set up, training the team in terms of what you need to do on our club admin dashboards, how you pick leads up that we're generating for you. And ultimately, I suppose, act as your advisor when it comes to membership. The other thing we provide as part of our core product is a customer service team. So ultimately, that team is there to answer all queries, flexible membership queries, be it queries about their membership, queries about their renewal, etc., points queries that sometimes they have. And I guess ultimately having that person there enables club managers to really focus on the day-to-day operation of the club. The marketing team within Play More Golf really helps at driving inquiries through to the club, and we'll touch a little bit on that later in terms of how we do. So ultimately, the flexible membership category needs to work for both your club and your existing members, and that's really important. And we work to make sure you achieve a successful balance, which ultimately makes this the introduction of this category a successful one. So flexible membership certainly doesn't replace your traditional membership. It just simply supports it. So by controlling and managing this flexible membership category and differentiating between membership types through the points matrix really supports what you do. The system itself will integrate with your current booking system. So it enables you to make those quieter times more appealing. And our system will only show the live availability that you want it to show. So typically, if you have a roll-up or a competition blocked off on your start sheet, that means that the tee times will not show to the flexible members because it's not live and available. So it'll only show that availability that you want it to show. So it effectively means we fully utilize the tee sheet. I touched sort of a little bit there, I think, on marketing in terms of what we do and one of the supports that you do get from us. So obviously what we're striving to do is to deliver the next 4 members to your club, and we'll certainly see some upgrades coming through. In terms of actually what we do and how we grow, so we sit with you and we really look at where you are in terms of your demographic, where your current members come from. And when we launch a new club, we look to launch through some paid advertising. So typically we will use a paid search, paid social. We have an affiliate network program, and we have some nurturing sequences within our CRM system that really says we'll launch it, we'll make sure that the name gets pushed within the local community, and really to help to drive interest and new membership leads into your club. Ultimately, the one thing that we ask clubs to do is if we drive the leads in, all the club needs to do is effectively pick up that lead, pick up the phone, speak to them, answer any queries they've got, and drive them to join. So we'll drive those leads to the club. and ultimately from a club's perspective, pick up the leads and convert them into the members. We do have the facility as an added extra to effectively pick up some of those leads for you, should that be a requirement. But we tend to try and encourage the clubs to pick up the leads themselves. In terms of, I suppose, what is the typical profile that we see of a flexible member? So average age of a flexible member tends to be around about 44. And on average, we see them spend around about £12.27 per person per round on food and beverage. So they're stats from research that we did with our 12,000 members last year. On average, we'll play between 8 to 10 rounds of golf a year. So again, what we were saying at the start there in terms of bridging that gap between the pay and play golfer and the full member, this bridges that gap because they play on average 8 to 10 times a year. And 78% of golf rounds are played at clubs at off-peak times. And we tend to find that 1 till 3 slot, 1 till 4 slot as being really key. Quite often we will talk to clubs where actually mornings are busy, taking care of roll-ups coming in, competitions and members playing. Some clubs tend to find that they get really busy then at twilight because actually it's a great course to come and play after work. But actually it's that 1 till 3 slot, 1 till 4 slot that perhaps where utilization tends to drop off. So we design that points matrix around to really drive traffic at those times and make sure that we obviously protect the other slots that really don't need pushing. And because I guess that we sort of see in golfers play sort of 8 to 10 times a year, what we tend to find in terms of value and ultimately yield, we can see that sometimes with a flexible member, it's 3 to 4 times higher than that of traditional members. So ultimately playing less, pushing them to off-peak times, but actually making sure that off-peak time we're yielding really well and actually generating a little bit more yield than perhaps the traditional members might bring in. We have a little bit of a sort of a take the test, so to speak, because a lot of it looks at, I suppose, profit that comes out of a club. We recognise and acknowledge there's lots of golf management systems out there now that actually do provide a flexible membership platform and a flexible membership solution. Because when it comes to sort of playing more golf, ultimately it's looking at all the other added extras that we provide and not just the platform. So the customer service team, the support team, and the marketing team. So when we're sort of talking to clubs, we very much talk about actually profit because the marketing is sort of done for you, the customer service team is done for you. When working with other sort of platform providers, obviously those elements aren't done. So whilst the platform with another provider may seem more cost effective, ultimately it's about how you're going to generate those new members, how you're going to sign them up and renew them and manage it all. So ultimately we have sort of a bit of a take the test calculator. This is just an example, so this is no sort of particular club, and ultimately we've got a system in here where we've got a certain amount of joiners in year one. We've pitched in here a membership, sort of full membership selling price of £12.50, and ultimately a flexible membership pitched at £4.20, so roughly a third of it. So average cost coming in, you can sort of see in year one, you can look at the average revenue you're going to generate in year one, and then the average profit. So ultimately from a sort of average revenue of £6,000 in year one, likely to see profit out of it with playing more golf of around about 4,000. That grows as the years grow on, because actually what you tend to find once you've built your new joiners into the model, you've then got renewing members and new members joining. So what we really see is we build really well over the first few years, continue to grow into year three, but actually when you hit year three, you've got 2 years worth of renewals coming in. So what we tend to find over a 3-year partnership with Play More Golf, with low sustainable joiners coming in, you could look at perhaps an average profit over 3 years of around about £31,000, helping to drive off-peak traffic, growing numbers on a slow basis. And I suppose clubs are looking at that and saying, actually, if I'm bringing in that as an average, that just helps really, because I'm filling quiet tee times. It's not hurting my full members. And ultimately, I'm sort of driving those quieter times. And that perhaps just helps that revenue coming in, perhaps helps when it comes to subscription increases next year to say, actually, rather than having to put it up 10%, actually, do you know what? I can look at a 4 or 5% increase to my members because I know I've got this extra one coming in. So ultimately, clubs really truly understand, what do I generate from my main subscriptions? How much green fee revenue do I need to generate? And then ultimately, what do I see coming in from a flexible membership? Actually sat with a club manager yesterday. I was doing some club reviews yesterday. And the club manager really sort of truly understood. He said, look, 50% of my revenue coming in needs to be left for green fees. That's the area that I look at. And then I'm looking at the other 50% of my revenue coming from membership. I know that my subscriptions for 7 and 5 day hit this. I know that my flexible membership is driving that. And therefore I really leave the other 50% to green fee revenue. And he says, look, I don't know quite what that's going to do, but ultimately the benefit I have is if I needed to switch on a little bit more with flexible membership, we know we can switch on and drive those leads in to help perhaps bridge any shortfall that a club might be finding. This month's probably a prime example of that, of the clubs that I've spoken to. It's been chucking it down with rain over the last 2 days that I've been out and about on the road. And of course, one's hoping for a great March and all of a sudden they don't. The clocks change and we hope we can drive some additional rounds after work, and all of a sudden it starts raining and you're like, not probably got the best start, but actually had a fabulous February. So ultimately, we hope clubs can really make hay whilst the sun shines. The ability of the flexible membership means it's almost that contracted revenue that's coming in and supporting where it needs to support. Ultimately, if a club would love to take the test, more than happy to for you to email me, and more than happy to sit with you and run it through, looking at your current schemes, actually looking at your current sort of management software and the cost that is, just to be able to show you perhaps what could we do for your club if you wanted us to. So that sort of brings to a close, really, in terms of some sort of hints and tips in terms of how we feel we can support clubs with some revenue growth. Hopefully, you've taken some good things away. I'm sure there's some great stuff that you're already doing, and please keep doing that. But if there's anything that you feel that we could help with or support with, or any questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out on my email. More than happy to sit down and have a conversation with you.
So thanks very much for that. I've got a couple of questions which have been pinged over. So if you're ready, the first one, I think you actually covered this earlier on, but it's a excuse me, I am actually off sick with COVID this week. So the first question is, and I know we've had this before, but is there a risk of our 7-day members looking at the Play More Golf flexible offering and then downgrading to that?
Yeah, so in actual fact, I actually had that question come up the other day doing a live presentation, and actually had a current club partner on the call at the time who actually said, you know what, that was my number one fear, was my they actually have a season ticket system in place, and he was really concerned about his season ticket holders moving into it. And actually what he said to me is that simply hasn't happened. He said, actually the reverse has happened. I've had people upgrading into the season tickets as a result of doing it. And I suppose really making sure there's distinct differences in entitlements between what does a season ticket holder or 5 or 7-day member get versus what does a flexible member get, just means you're sort of protecting that a little bit. And then the flip side of it, if you do happen to see people moving into that category or expressing an interest in that category, just have to ask ourselves, were they going to leave anyway? And was I going to go from taking £1,000 or £1,250 subscription income to nothing, versus I've moved them into a separate category? They understand they're going to be playing a little bit differently because they couldn't play on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. But ultimately what we've done is we've kept them sticky to the club. We've kept them still spending in the bar and spending in the shop. And you just don't know, in 12 months time, 24 months time, perhaps their circumstances may change and they choose to become back into a 7-day member potentially. So yeah, just making sure there's a real distinct difference between the entitlements. As soon as it starts to blend into one another, quite rightly, the 7-day member says, well, why am I a 7-day member when the flexible member gets the same as I do? And therefore can just add the complication. So we always recommend, let's have a look at your benefits matrix and let's really see what those differences are. And then we just slot in around it.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got another question related to that, but one's just popped up on the screen. So I think let's tackle this one. Can you give us a breakdown on the £1,900 cost, please?
Yeah, so in essence, that £1,900 cost becomes annual fee, in essence, in onto the platform. And then obviously what we take off the back of that, so how the platform basically works is you obviously pay that annual fee, and that's just a standard. So effectively that fee is a standard, in essence, 24-month agreement we have various other commercial arrangements that we have in place. So if a club in particular is not certain about the return that they might get on it, we can potentially offer them a trial product in essence. So that would bring the cost down. And effectively, it's sort of I suppose it's a reduced annual fee for 12 months to come and try the platform, let it prove its worth, and then you perhaps would continue from there. And equally, that 1900, which is a kind of, as I said, the standard 24-month fee, that would come down if perhaps a club felt really confident, wanted to commit it to a longer term, and perhaps wanted to say sort of 48 months. So effectively, that fee is broken down into all the use of the platform, which ultimately comes with the account manager that you get, all the marketing report that you will get in terms of setting it up. And then obviously you get all the customer service team coming in as well. The other element of how the platform ultimately works is when people in essence come in and join, we would take a commission from joiners coming in, because effectively that's our cost of acquisition from doing the marketing side of things. That's kind of how the scheme works.
Yeah, and also there's the app that the individual golfer gets that they're able to use to do all their booking and stuff. So
yeah, so it's web-based and app-based. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a complete ecosystem that comes along. Thank you. Does PMG integrate with Intelligent Golf?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so we integrate with all the main providers. So we have an integration with BRS, we have an integration with Intelligent Golf, with Club Systems, with ESP, with Lightspeed as well. And actually, even if we get a new one, we're sort of looking at all the time. We've got a new partner currently that we're looking at integrating. So integrate with all the main players that come in. And even if somebody has a solution that we don't integrate with, we've got a development team here that can really help and actually start to forge some integration with that club as well. So we've got a club in particular that's now changing providers. So they were with a certain provider and they're looking to change another provider. We take care of all of that. So that's one of the things that the support manager will do. We'll look at the current one and then help move all the platform over to the new one.
Brilliant, thank you. So here's one from earlier was I won't couch it in terms. It just says, how long does a flexible member stay around in your experience?
So yeah, so typically, I suppose ultimately, that flexible member that's coming in and perhaps has aspirations to join the club full time, maybe only with us a year ultimately, because actually we've introduced them to golf and they've really sort of liked it and decided that actually they want to kind of a little bit more from the club and join to be a 7-day member. So they may be with us for 12 months or so. I suppose on average, and ultimately average people will stay with you around about 3 years, something like that. But equally, we've got members that have been with us still from year dot. So they joined us in sort of 2015, 2016 and have still renewed at those clubs now because actually they feel comfortable and they feel happy at that club. But I'd say the average is around about 3 years.
Yeah, and I seem to recall that there's quite an interesting stat about the amount of people who drop out of being a flexible member, how many of them actually upgrade to 7-day.
Yeah, so ultimately what the sort of the stats have shown, so the stats have shown that on average around about 20%, so 2 in every 10 who don't renew with us ultimately have upgraded to being a 5 or 7-day membership at the club. That's sort of starting to peter off a little bit, sort of did at the back end of last year. I guess some of the uncertainty in the market perhaps prompted some of that, but that's pretty much consistent where we are.
Brilliant, thank you. And just one more question is, how do we best sell this into our existing members? Because I guess there's some certainty around this new membership offering coming up.
Definitely. So I can talk to you, I suppose, twofold. I can talk to you from my own experiences when I was a general manager and introducing this in, and I can sort of talk to you with the recommendations that we made. So ultimately, from my own experiences, really took the members with us on a journey, had that membership matrix set up, which had 7-day membership category and all the tick boxes to say, I get this, I get that, and I get everything that I need because you're paying the most amount of money. That's right. And you know what? Over in the far right hand column, I had the flexible membership and I had lower booking rights designed to get them to play at offbeat times, didn't get perhaps a discount on the bar, couldn't play in board competitions, but could play 1 win-meet medal, 2 midweek medals a month. And ultimately had that on display in the clubhouse with a bit of narrative that I put in it, and sat down with the members that inevitably there's always a certain few members that can be a little bit vocal in clubs. and ultimately would sit with those and say, look, this is the scheme, this is what we're looking to do. The board at the club or the committee at the club had signed it off because they saw the benefits of them, and really take the members on a journey to say, you don't need to worry about this because they're not going to be playing when you play. But actually what it ultimately is going to do, it's going to drive some additional revenue at times that aren't busy at the moment. So it's going to drive some additional revenue. And hey, that can perhaps help to reduce potential subscription increases that we need to pass on to members each year. It just helps mitigate that. So recommendations to 100% take members on a journey with it, really have that benefits matrix in place so people can really see that there are distinct differences between the two categories, just to perhaps allay those fears that, why should I be a 7-day member at this club if there's a flexible member there? Ultimately, they can see that there are significantly less entitlements for a flexible member than what a 7-day member gets.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Well, that's all the questions that we've had submitted so far. So unless anyone's got a last minute question they would like to ping in via the Q&A. Alistair, thanks for your time. Your contact details are there up on the screen. So everybody, thanks for joining this afternoon, and please feel free to get in touch if you've got any more questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, David.